This is how conditioning really happens. You're born, you might have heard me talk about this in some other videos. You're born whole. You're born free, right? Again, you come out, you're like, yay, what is this? You're this ball of just expansive energy. And you come into this thing called the world, life. You come into a society, and in this society, there are certain rules and guidelines. Is this good or bad? Good or bad? It's good. What would happen if there were no rules, no guidelines, no traditions? It'd be chaos. Okay, so for the most part, not all those rules are accurate and good, by the way, but for the most part, the fact that there are rules in a society is necessary. We wouldn't function otherwise. So that's factor number one. You come into a society. Number two, you're this, again, ball of expansive energy, but can you fend for yourself? No. So your survival depends on whoever is raising you. That's number two. Number three, do you see the world as it is? No. Right? You have a very limited perception, very limited perspective. Even as a kid, right? You don't really see the world as it is. As a baby even, by the way, first few months, you don't even know what this whole thing is. You can't even form a 3D interpretation of things. Now, because of that, here's what happens. You're born whole, you come into this world. Whoever's raising you, what's their job? To teach you the rules and guidelines. Right? So if someone here is like, let me get naked, your parents will be like, hey, no. Whoever's raising you, hey, it's not okay to get naked. Right? Let me be loud, let me sing right now. No. It's not appropriate right now. Right? You're in a seminar room, don't sing. So you're taught these rules. But here's what happens. Say this is you, again, whole and amazing, and say your parent tells you, hey, don't be so loud right now, or don't sing right now. Because you have such a limited perspective on things, as a kid, you might interpret that as them yelling at you and them not loving you. Right? As a kid, it's like, when they reward me, they love me. When they punish me and say no, they don't love me. Is that true? No, your parents love you either way. I mean, ideally, right? They're just, if someone's like, maybe not. For the most part, they're just trying to help you. They're trying to show you the rules. But we don't see it that way as kids. Now, as a kid, because you depend on your parents, say they're like, hey, don't be so loud. They don't love me right now. Your survival is threatened. If they don't love me, what could happen? They could abandon me. If they abandon me, I die. So in order for me to survive, I have to please these ultimate beings. I can never have them not love me or I'm screwed. That's not true, but that's how you perceive it. So what do? The aspect of me that is loud is threatening my survival right now. Every time I'm loud, they tell me, no, don't be so loud. So what happens if I keep being loud? They might just abandon me. So let me take this part of me and let's get rid of it. Anything that threatens your survival, you're going to get rid of it. Now, because it is you, can you actually get rid of it? No. But you can disown it and put it as far out of your awareness as possible. And that's what happens. We create this split within where you could say, here is the acceptable you, and here is the unacceptable you. This is where being loud goes. And this depends on your upbringing, on what was acceptable, what wasn't, right? In one household, for example, maybe they're like, don't be loud. In another one, they might be like, yay, every time you're loud, they celebrate. In one household, even on a deeper level, right, they might be like, you know what, being creative, right, that's being immature, that's not good. You want to be a very serious person, don't be a little child. What is this creative stuff? And you might take the part of you that is on the more creative side, disown it. Vice versa, in another household, it might be like, be creative. If you go all serious, that's sucking the soul out of your life. So we all go through this. And it's very important when it comes to true change to look back on your upbringing. Look at your household, look at your community, look at where you lived and ask yourself, overall, right, say in that country, what's acceptable, what isn't? In my community, what's acceptable, what isn't? In my household, what's acceptable, what isn't? And it'll give you a lot of data in terms of what you've disowned. This here is also one of the reasons none of us at a core feel like we're good enough. Think about it. You're born, and from the moment you come out, it's like, yay, bad kid, yay, bad kid. So we think we're only loved when we are the acceptable part of ourselves. And by default, from the moment we're born, we believe that there's something within us that isn't good, that we got to get rid of, that we're not good enough just to be us. Only when there's the acceptable you. And this here is the start of that front that we try to perfect and hide behind. Every single person here has it, right? So you get a feel for it. You go through these years, all this conditioning. Also happens in school, by the way. Okay, the three, you could say, things or people that'll really hammer a lot of this in: whoever's raising you, primary caretaker; teachers; classmates; whoever has a lot of authority. Okay, so again, whoever's raising you, that's going to condition you a lot. Teacher, a lot of authority. Classmates, if they all believe it, also a lot of authority. And this is why a lot of people have traumatic experiences in the classroom when they're younger when it comes to, say, expressing themselves, right? They might be loud and people stare, or the classmate laughs, or the teacher tells you to be quiet, and perhaps showing interest in someone. As a kid, everyone teases everyone else. It's like, oh, you like that person? Ha ha ha, they like this person. And if they all start laughing, because you have a very limited perspective as a kid, you're like, I'm going to die, the classroom doesn't accept me, and there's no world outside the classroom. Ah! And then you disown that part of you. The part of me that expresses interest in someone, let's get rid of that because it's threatening my survival. And this is deeply ingrained in us. Then you go on to live your life. Here you are, an adult. And you think you're over it. And logically you look back and you're like, yeah, that makes no sense. But it's deeply imprinted in you. And this here is what gets activated in a certain situation or gets triggered. This here, speaking of new technology, this is social anxiety or approach anxiety. That's you getting triggered. That is something that is poking at that aspect of you that, say, puts themselves out there or shows interest. And it's like, I will die if I embody this. It's not true, you know it, but there's still that same survival instinct that kicks in. And you can audit your life here and simply look at different situations where, say, you experience some anxiety or fear and ask yourself, is this appropriate to reality? If you go out and you want to say hi to someone, is it appropriate to freak out, to be like, okay, let's do this, let's do this? Is that normal? No. A lot of people also have massive fear when it comes to public speaking, right? If I bring someone up here, a lot of people are like, oh, I'm like, speak, own it, immediately stifled. That's not real. Because you know logically you're not at risk here, but something inside you gets activated. Okay? That's you getting triggered. It's when one of those aspects that you disowned is coming closer to the surface, or you're in a situation that's forcing you to embody it. And even though logically you think it's fine, it's still there pulling your strings. Okay? Now, this is why this formula is so key. Say you're someone who has approach anxiety. You get triggered socially. Step one, you're going to take action. You're going to say go out and put yourself out there socially. As you do, you're going to get triggered. The response. Okay? And this triggered response can be very intense. You know, I've seen it over the years. There's a client that comes to mind. This is in Amsterdam. We were at a McDonald's late at night, and we were just talking over, you know, the night out, and we went out and talking to people, and again, working on our social skills. And it was at the McDonald's. I'm like, hey, go say hi to that person over there. And the client, okay, sitting casually talking, went from, oh yeah, that's cool, it's cool, to what? I'm like, go on right now, go say hi. Suddenly started tensing up. No joke, started turning pale. I'm like, come on, and started giving him a bit of a shove, like, come on. Hanging on to the table for dear life, like as if I'm about to push him out of a plane. That was his response. That there has nothing to do with the external. That's something inside of him that got activated, that got triggered. Now we think this is bad, but getting triggered is actually amazing. Why? Because one of those things you've been resisting is now coming closer and closer into your awareness, into you re-owning it and re-embodying that. And this here is where letting go or releasing comes into play. Action, trigger, and then you practice letting go of the resistance around being that and embodying that, and by doing so, you slowly become more and more whole. You divide and dissolve the split.